Hello everybody and welcome to one more video on big units, and this time it is the British and French aviation for the period of 1939 from the Drôle de Guerre up to the end of the French campaign in June 1940. This is a group of 30 aircraft that I've been building for many years. I'm trying to get at least one model from the main models that both British and French had at the beginning of the war. It has been, of course, something made along many decades. I remember making this Potez 540, maybe more than 30 years ago, probably. And there are others that are also extremely old. And then there are some very recent ones. For instance, this AMU 143 was built just a few months ago, together with these two other bombers. So there's a little bit of everything. The biggest contributor to this collection is Heller. Heller is a French brand that everybody knows that made most of the French aircraft. Then they were sold to Smer in Czech Republic, in Prague, and they kept on making them, which is very good. But let's start with the British. British is easier because there are only 6 aircraft, as you can see. So there are 3 Hurricane here, which was the mainstay of the fighter force of the British in the French campaign. The Spitfire was already on, but which was very rarely seen because they were already thinking about using the Spitfire to protect, obviously, England, because they knew in case of things going very bad as they did. So they were expecting, of course, the Spitfire to be the mainstay of the defense of Great Britain. Then you have here also a Bolton Pole Defiant. There is a Ferry Battle and a Lysander. A little bit on these for me to show you my approach to make aircraft. First of all, you see that everything is blue on the canopies. So this is it has not been always like this. For instance, this guy here is clearly repainted. In the past, it had a guy inside. We all would lose lots of time looking for the right color of the interior, looking for details of the panel instrument, knowing exactly the colors that were used by the fighter pilots, by the bomber pilots, whatever. Now I skipped all that. So in some cases, in the older models, I took out the canopy. I repainted it blue in the inside, and that allowed the building process to be much quicker. So you can you see a little bit of white on the inside and blue, and you have everything done. So it's relatively easy, and at the same time, this when you paint blue on the inside, it gives a nice sheen that you can see here. Let me see if I can show you. You see, it's nice. It's a little bit different, because it's varnished from the interior. It gives a very nice, sheen to this area of the aircraft. Most of the digits and letters are hand painted, because I want things that flew on this particular period of World War II, and I do this a little bit from World War I up to Russian-Ukrainian War. I always want stuff to be as they were on the battlefield. So it is also a little bit funny because you have to look for that kind of markings. You have here probably Airfix or Matchbox. I don't know. You have Altaya. Altaya again. This one has to be repainted because it was all black. There is an Airfix. I think the Ferry Battle is Airfix. And you have a Lysander here from Airfix. And I think this one was, if I'm not mistaken, from 1957. I bought a group of 10 aircraft, some maybe 9, 10, I don't know. There's still over there one that you can still see. Let me show you that one over there. You see, there's still a leftover. There is that Comet that I'll probably never paint. So if someone wants it, please tell me. I will send it to you gladly. Um, and this came on that batch. Yeah, I bought it in a second-hand fair. The plastic was all destroyed in 1957. You remember those blister aircraft that Airfix had, filled with holes. In fact, this one I had to rebuild one of the wheels because it was gone. So it was completely rebuilt. I'm not saying just the wheel. I say also the structure. I don't know what is the name of that thing. Well, you know what I mean. I think it was this part. I had to copy it from the left part. I have to make the right part, copying the other one in plastic card, obviously. And this all is also a very touching thing for me, because I think this, Alexander, was one of the first aircraft I built in my life. I remember going with my father to a small shop. There was in Praça da República here in Coimbra, and there was a very small shop on the first floor of a building. And I remember seeing a kind of for me it was a daydream, of course. There was a kind of evergreen. You see that plastic card structure that holds the evergreen, filled, instead of evergreen, it was filled with Airfix kits, because they had that hole in the card, and then of course plastic was hanging from it. It was an incredible sight for me. I could see the Tigers, the Churchills, the Shermans, the Panthers, and all these kind of aircraft, Focke-Wulfs, Spitfires, everything was there. And also this one, I brought this one, and then I lost it somehow. I don't know where. And so I found it recently again. And in fact, it was the original model that I bought. Maybe I'm 57 by now, so probably close to 50 years ago. And this time I painted, of course, with true France 1940 markings. Most of these markings I painted by hand. I just used the roundels, even sometimes not even the roundels. In fact, I paint everything. So they're not. I mean, they're not perfect, as you can easily see. I mean, they're not perfect, but well, they go okay. So for the British, everything is said. Now for the French, there is plenty more things to be said, of course, because there are 24 of them. So we can start here. With some, for instance, with this guy. If I'm not mistaken, I don't really remember, but it was one of the most recent aircrafts I've made. I think it is an embryo prototype. It was never put into action. Then you have the Potez, famous Potez 631, or is it the 6311? Something like that. I'm not really. Sometimes I make a little bit of confusion with them. I think this one is the 6311, and this one is the Potez 631, because this one here is the Bloch, the MB 174. They are mostly reconnaissance, light bombers, if you want. I think this one was also used as a fighter, but they look a lot. I place them in the reconnaissance group. They look like reconnaissance aircraft. So if probably in a war game that I make with them, eventually they will become reconnaissance aircraft. Together with this Limouho 117, also a Heller kit. Most of the kits here are Heller, even if some, of course, as I told you, are nowadays made by Smer. It's a very, very nice aircraft with just perfect charm for the aircraft of the 30s, which are in fact amazing aircrafts. Those designed in the 30s are my favorite. Then you have here some Potez 630. These are used by the French mostly as ground attack aircraft. They're also again by Eller. Two of them, same cockpit, painted blue. And you also have a Caproni here, so an Italian-made aircraft, but also by the French. I have a float plane here that I don't know the name. It was also, I think, a prototype, and I think this one was the thing. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was from Azur, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't know if this one was also not Azur. Maybe Azur also, and this one also. Azur here. All these four here are all Heller, and these two also. They're also Heller. So reconnaissance and light bombers are done. Now let's enter the fighter, which probably are the ones that will be mostly more useful in terms of rapid fire wargaming. So you have here 4 Devoitine. This is Devoitine 520. These 2 here are Altaya, and those 2 over there are Heller. But at the same time, these 2 here are to be used by the Vichy government, so it is good for them. This is a good addition to the collection, because you can fight. Funnily enough, the guys that are in front over there, let me show you, which is of course the oops, let me see if I can show you that. Oh, I can't. Sorry, technology is not my strongest thing. Of course, those were the Americans in Tunisia, so it can somehow, or Algeria, so you can use them against them. The other 2, of course, are to represent, of course, the one of the main fighters of the French in the 1940 campaign. Now, moving a little bit to the right, you have a group of 3. These ones here. These 3 are the Moran-Saulnier 406. This one is Asegawa, and these 2 here are Altaya. Yeah. This one has a story. This one is the Asegawa model, and it was in fact the first. This particular model, with these markings, was the first French fighter first aircraft to be shot by the Germans. And when I was reading about this first engagement between French, it's still in the Drôle de Guerre, somewhere in the end of 1939, if I'm not mistaken. I remember reading that the pilot was Marius Bézet. He died while trying to parachute. Parachute became in flames, and then he fell in a river and died. And the guy that shot him, I also made his aircraft, was Messerschmitt 109 with Erich mix on his controls. And then I started to read about this Eric mix, and in fact I found a funny story, because he was the mayor of Wiesbaden before the war in 1933. He was the responsible for the death of 2,700 Jews in Wiesbaden, exactly in that year, 33, which I found a little bit strange, but probably it was. Okay, 33. Let's assume it was already that number of Jews died in the first year of Hitler in power. Well, whether it was in the first year or not, he was clearly, as far as I could understand, responsible for all that killing. Then he went to the Luftwaffe, of course. He shot the first French aircraft. And then in 1953, after the war, he became again mayor of Wiesbaden. And then he was when he died, he was buried in the most honorable place in Wiesbaden, which tells us a lot about the world we are living in, right? Yeah, and also explains many problems that we are having today with certain political forces, because in fact they were not extricated from our Europe. We thought they were, but they weren't. They are still around, and very dangerous they are. Well, then you have here a Curtis Hawk, an American-made Curtis Hawk 75. The French also had a few of them. There is also this one is Heller, if I'm not mistaken, and this Caudron C174, if I'm not mistaken. It's also Heller. There were a few of them. Most famous of them were ones that were piloted by the Polish. And you have here the last 2 fighters of the group, which are the what's the name of these things? These are the Bloch 152. This one is Altaya again, and that one is Smer X Heller. So Heller and Smer also is the queen of this. These are the queen brands of this table at the moment. Finally, a word for the bombers. You have here the oldest one, which is the Potez 540. It's an XLer, nowadays Smer. I think I bought it with Smer Smer box. Very 30s aircraft. Very cute. Let me try to see if I can place this guy in a correct position, because my stands, which are of course flutes, champagne flutes, sometimes are a little bit stubborn for them to hold the aircraft, but okay, reasonable. Then you have Maryland here, 167. This one is by Azur. For instance, here I couldn't paint the interior of the canopy, so they were painted on the outside. It would be too complicated. But for fighters, it's extremely easy to paint the blue from the inside. Not as much for these very glassy bombers. Let me see if I can put this guy in a correct position. Okay, even if he's not, as you can see, it's not centered, but he's in a good position. Then an AMU 140 what? 143. This is the AMU 143, a very large bomber, but extremely cute also. Again, very 30s, with a very old look, a little bit still World War I look, but a fine addition to the collection, I think. And finally, there is the best bomber of the French aviation, which was the Leo 451, and with this huge gun on the back that you can see. Extremely funny. I don't know how the fuselage could cope with this recoil from this big, almost artillery piece that you can see here. But it's a very, very cute thing also. And here it is. Here it is. I think I've showed you almost everything. Was something that I forget? I don't think so. So this is the French and British aviation for the period of 39 and 40, 1940. Then I'll show you. I'm going to try to do that. I'll show you my aviation, my aircraft collections in several parts. Maybe the X's next time, Germans and Italians, then Japanese in a different video, because I have plenty of them, and then the British and American for late war, maybe in the middle for the desert also. I don't know. Okay, everything is seen. Hope you have enjoyed. Thank you so much, and see you next in another big unit video. Bye bye.